Good evening. So here we are again. Lots of rain today in Northern California and down in the valley near Sacramento and Folsom. Took a little trip, saw an old friend, participated with the public, did a little touring around in Folsom, where you have a very large prison and a very large population of rather privileged people who are not in prison. Nothing implied there, only that there's a big contrast between the prison that Folsom is very famous for and other juxtaposed populations, and a very big lake and a dam. So basically tonight is going to be kind of just a conversation to keep with my aim to invest in the channel, share my thoughts, observations, a kind of legacy diary of sorts, I guess. I'm not really altogether sure where this is all going. I'm just doing it, seeing how it evolves, and also just what occurs moment to moment. It kind of has a life of its own once I hit publish, and we'll see what happens. Watched a few videos today, just keeping up with world events the best I can with things that concern me and interest me. And one of the phenomenons that people seem to be curious about is why Iran is choosing to use Lego as part of their aesthetic propaganda basis, sort of their medium. And I've not yet heard anyone say anything about the fact that Legos, of course, and not so, of course, because it doesn't seem to be very obvious. It's a language that speaks to the inner child and just the baseline of what children know to be true. And I think it's a very, whether it's intentional that the artist chose Lego because they understand different archetypal languages that touch different parts of the psyche. I don't know, but I just find it non-coincidental that it's a time where things are falling apart with the patriarchal mask that has been worn in the Western world, at least for a very long time. Every culture has a mask of some kind, because that just seems to be how tribal psychology works with humans. Once you get past a certain population number, a pyramid starts to be built invisibly. You've got class structures that start to float to the top. And I mean this in like a subconscious way. It's not something that's intentionally done per se. It just happens organically. And it's not to say that a certain philosophy or ideology could not be designed to keep those natural hierarchies in check. Otherwise, you get extreme situations like we have here in the United States, where 1% of the population has about 70 to 80% of the capital. Um, so it's maybe a little more complex than I want to get into tonight, as far as like how to deconstruct um, a naturally occurring phenomenon in the human uh, code, so to speak, of civilization, like how things just simply occur through reaction, response, various immoral decisions, justifications, and how people deflect, and what happens when those things are deflected and how they're received. And uh, it's a kind of like a party in the dark in a way. A lot of things simply happen without conscience, without people keeping themselves in check and doing things in a deliberate way, and in a mature way. You have people conniving and planning behind the scenes to manipulate, and espionage, and class warfare, propaganda, false flag operations. Um, it's a lot of shadow play, very little intentionality, like where a group of people or a society has a plan, and their plan is not based on any one person's ideas. It's more around supporting a natural law of ethics or morals or certain principles that are not biased towards religion, race, uh, skin color, uh, English pronunciation. Um, it, it's it's something larger than the ego that interprets morals and ethics and religious principles. It's not, it's principle without the religion, and I think the freedom to interpret principles and ethics and morals is is not a freedom. It's skirting away. I feel like a kind of coming up with an excuse to not do the hard work of sticking with the base principle itself, what it implies. And I think when people interpret morals and ethics to suit their needs, it weakens the original intent of the idea itself. Um, it turns it into something more human, which is not, I feel, a good thing. I think that there are human qualities that get us in trouble and get us stuck in redundant dysfunctions and toxic relationships, and um, circular logic and magical thinking, and litigious processes that could easily be settled with just an agreement, uh, in understanding that certain truths are just simply that. They're not to be argued. They're if you go against them, then it is what it is. It's not a debate. Um, you hurt someone's feelings, you apologize. That's it. There's no questioning their feelings, cross-examining, um, wondering if they're really telling the truth. Um, are there are those feelings their feelings or something they were pre-programmed to think their feelings? Like there's all kinds of manipulative wonderments that come from the immaturity of the adult that doesn't want to relinquish their imaginary picture of things or their their power they feel they need to have over the externals. So back to the Lego thing with Iran, uh, I think that the Lego videos that are coming out are objectively appropriate in the sense that the Lego aesthetic reduces the message down to the bare necessities, and you can't the more simple the medium, the less room for interpretation and wiggling out of the message, trying to like the less ways you can interpret it. Um, so it's a minimalist way of delivering the message in the most simple form, like a Zen garden kind of situation where there's a bonsai tree in the middle of a gravel circle, and that's pretty much it. I mean, there's no forest, there's no rivers, ponds, eagles snatching salmon out of said ponds and rivers. It just is what it is, and I think it was a very good choice, whether it was just out of circumstance and um, coming from sort of the unconscious chose it, or whether uh, the artist deliberately chose it. Either way, it's very effective. And a few observations I had today, and a few people I met. One being a pastor who said a few things and kind of got me sort of uh, pondering a little bit. Uh, and without really going into any like personal details, I don't want to like offend anyone that might be watching this video. And I mean, they of course know what I'm talking about, but um, let's just say that I want to try and keep it as general as possible. Uh, I think that religion can oftentimes deliver a message to a group of people, not so much based on the tenets and relativity of the religion itself, but more around what the pastor wishes and what he wants or would imagine would be best for him. So there's a bit of bias there, like quantum physics has already proven that the observer of the phenomenon affects the phenomenon, and there's no escaping that. You can't um, look on the quantum level. The quantum and you as the observer, you both see each other at the same time, and you both morph at the same time. So there's no way to really not do that. And so I think the same thing happens with religion and ideas of the beyond, and a lot of things get projected out into other people's lives that may simply not be true. That is that's only really true for the individual who wishes it to be true for themselves, and whether that is true for them or not is not really something I'm arguing. I'm just saying that often dogma is created not by the tenets of the religion, but by the person delivering uh, their interpretation or their sort of propaganda around what they feel is possible. And so, just to be be aware that um, not everything is universal law, and um, keep a healthy doubt um, up front, and watchful boundaries, like a kind of a like there was a little statue in King Tut's tomb uh, of a, I think it's Sektet or Sekhmet, uh, but it's a little female figure, kind of Venusian looking, and she has a scorpion on top of her head, and it's all gold gilded. One of the most incredible uh, sculptures that I've seen in Egyptian antiquity, and um, the idea was that the scorpion is the guardian of her thoughts. So if any um, unruly or unwelcome thoughts uh, came about, the scorpion would sting them. And I think that someday, um, when mental health is the number one priority in of humanity, that then we can actually go forward. Our technology is centuries ahead of our mental and emotional development, if not possibly millennia. Um, our inhumanity looks nothing like the technology that is out in front of us. We do not resemble the the technology whatsoever. If anything, um, it's a distraction, and kind of like a wish fulfillment utopia situation that at least at this point it's a crutch. AI, um, CGI, all this technology, all these wondrous things, and yet a genocide has been televised for almost 3 years now, with no end in stop. Israel is starting to bomb and genocide Lebanese. So it just goes to show you that um, it's almost like there's two dimensions, or well, at least two dimensions, possibly many more, but at least two, where you've got a battalion of ghosts working through people, doing their own thing, while those very people don't resemble the miracles that they're creating. It's almost like there's a third or second or third party involved in all this that is not that is just sort of ambivalent, and it's kind of like a bad joke or something where um, the contrast is vast. Um, it's like Elon Musk and Tesla um, and the SpaceX project. All that technology and all those miracles, the Neuralink and helping people who are paralyzed be able to speak through uh, Neuralink technology, and it's 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 nowhere near the character of Elon Musk. I mean, it's like he does not resemble the technology that he is backing, and and nor do many of the people who are involved. And so you you can never judge an artist by the art. Let's say um, something else is going on. Uh, so that's why, like, whenever I read a quote or I see art that I'm interested in, I immediately want to go and read about the artist and the bibliography of the artist. And if they're still around, find a documentary, learn about them, so that I can kind of understand what's what, and um, what exactly am I looking at. And it helps me uh, not add imaginations onto the art that perhaps are not simply not there. I'm just making it. I'm seeing what I want to see versus what's actually there. Um, so yeah, that's got the Lego thing, and then the religion. Um, yeah, I just feel like it helps to remember that Christianity borrowed uh, most of its ideas from pagan lore. So if you go back and you research the main uh, table of contents of the Genesis and good and evil and heaven and hell and all these different mythological uh, structures that are kind of like the cornerstones of where the religion pivots and jumps from. These are not original ideas. Um, well, at least they're not Christianity's or Judaism's original ideas. They were someone's original ideas. Um, so dig a little deeper if you care to. Uh, it's like the Tibetans and their form of ritual was inherited from an earlier group. And so it's good to remember that before you go owning and thinking that you're the uh, getting, kind of like a superiority complex over the knowledge that you assume uh, is originally yours as a religion. Just remember that put up against um, older forms of worship or uh, belief systems, it's quite young, and those ideas are not new. Um, so just a little bit of humble, scholarly relativity is good. I feel just to be a little more sober about what's what. And another thing about doubt, which I mentioned a bit back there, ways, is I feel like positive doubt keeps the truth alive. That truth can get sort of hemmed in by its own hubris. It thinks that, well, I'm true and this is true and that's that. And yet, somewhere else on the planet, that truth is being dismantled and evolved into either a greater version of itself or a lesser version, and it's being composted, which then gives birth to a stronger uh, something else. But that something else is uh, not completely uh, in denial about what its roots grew from. It has uh, reverence for the the antique that it is now growing from. So a healthy doubt keeps the truth alive because the truth is never, and I mean this in the sense of beliefs, and I don't mean this in the sense of ethics and morals and principles, but just how we interpret um, life after death, dreams, where humans are going, uh, who am I, how am I, that these things are always evolving. And when someone states a fact about human consciousness or their consciousness, just remember that uh, it has three dots at the end of it, not a period, so that it's always evolving. Um, the ego likes to make statements because it wants to have something consistent and provable that it can keep stating day after day, uh, and be sure of itself. But if you're curious and you believe that there's a mystery beneath the obvious, you know this is simply just a coping mechanism, like smoking the drapes too hard. Um, it's a redundant truth strangles itself in that way. And the the curiosity part, I think that doubt uh, sparks curiosity, and then it goes away, and curiosity can go forwards, like Sherlock Holmes. Without a mystery, he simply makes it by observing and wondering, um, and being curious. And I feel like curiosity is um, a positive force ultimately, uh, unless it's coupled with selfishness, and then it becomes um, stalking and not a altogether productive, positive force. Um, so I think I fixed the reverb in my mic today by changing some setting on the gain. So sorry about that. My previous video, that sounded like I was speaking inside a empty Iranian missile silo. Um, a shout out to the Lebanese um, and the resistance uh, to Gaza, to Yemen, Iran, Iraq, um, Afghanistan. Um, I really hope that this new form that's developing is going to be a redemptive, culling force to get um, the Epstein class and the capitalists out of the Middle East once and for all. Not to say that the Middle East doesn't have its own form of issues: capitalism, greed, exploitation, classism, because it does. But that's their business. That business belongs to the people, and the people of the Middle East. That's their domain. That's their ancestral blood right to either endure all that and work it out, or not, and revolt and tear the whole thing down, and then wonder why they did it, or be glad that they did it, but still um, wondering. It's ultimately what I'm getting at is it's not. It's really none of our business, unless they make it our business. They want our help, or um, in some redemptive way they make it our business. Uh, but ultimately, what I from my studies with Napoleon and Britain coming in with BP gas and what they did in Iran, with the Shah and overthrowing and assassinations and on and on and on. It's like a slow colonization of the region, with Israel as um, the nuclear armed uh, deterrent or threatening device. It's a the West's involvement in the Middle East is completely, at least as far as I can tell, since they have not brought democracy. So it has nothing to do with humanitarian um, aims or ambitions. There are no democracies in the Middle East. Um, and there's no democracy in America for that matter. So it's greed and power meaning that it's simply filling a void of hollow morals and hollow heart and hollow care, hollow empathy and pure apathy and sociopathy. Just um, a demonic autopilot. Um, it's sort of like it's like boarding a plane, and everybody's on the plane, and the captain is last, and um, the captain walks on the plane wearing a parachute, and then quietly goes into the cabin and closes the door. That's America in the Middle East, and the Middle East is the passengers in the plane. So I hope that very soon, rather than later, the Gazans, the Lebanese, and when I say Gazans, I mean the Palestinians, um, the Egyptians, the Jordanians, the Yemeni, the Iranians, the Iraqis, the Saudis. I hope that you all regain your ancestral dignity and all the baggage that comes with that. Of course, we all have baggage, but without dignity, you can't tell what's what ultimately because you have no center. Your mind is just caught up in any old thing that it wants to latch onto, and that latching on may not be appropriate for what you're wired to do. It could just be a fascination or a distraction. But ancestral artifacts, and I mean this in a like an internal way, what you identify with, what moves you, what you feel in your gut, what you know, even if it's transient, which everything is for the most part, um, if it moves you, if you feel it in your gut and it's constant and it happens more than once and it becomes like a, not a yearning so much as a focal point or an anchor point, then you know it's true. It if you forget about it and have to remind yourself that it's probably not true. But if it's true, it usually reminds you. It's like you wake up in the morning and it's in your face, like a cat just staring at you. Um, if it's if it's really in there, it's gonna remind you. And I really hope that this forced preoccupation with Western dominance and uh, Western materialism and uh, tokenism, uh, hollow value systems, hypocritical value systems, double standards, double speaking, straw men, propaganda, false flags, espionage, assassinations, quid pro quos, blackmails. It just on and on and on. Uh, I really hope that you're liberated from all that nonsense and you can get back down to dealing with whatever you've got going on that um, you need to straighten out. You don't need additional dirty laundry that doesn't fit you hanging on your clothesline. Um, that's not appropriate. Uh, so good luck, and I feel for the American servicemen and women who are caught up in all this uh, fake patriotic uh, rigmarole, as old school used to say. Um, it's it's sold for something far darker. I mean, it's sold for as if it's a Tom Cruise um, uh, fairy tale, and it is far darker than that. Uh, it's at the service of personalities and ambitions that those young men and women will never even know unless, I mean, I guess they could know if they did some deep research, but the monsters behind these wars, uh, they seldom come out of their holes. Um, I mean, they are the hole in many cases, so it's kind of hard to come out of a hole if you are the hole. Um, and society, through a lot of apathy and distraction, um, Jung would say that society births these individuals in some way, shape, or form. And it may be true. At the same time, we can't use that as an excuse to just let it happen and not do anything about it, not put it in check. So it's like apologizing. If something subconsciously comes out of your mouth and you didn't mean to say it, or at least not in the way that you did say it, then you apologize, you rephrase it, and you move on. If you really mean it. And the same thing happens on a mass consciousness, mass societal level. Things ooze out of the dungeon, and well, there it is, and it's up for the society to take ownership of it, even if it is responsible, and it reflects the society. That's the alarm clock. That's the a message from Dark Santa that well, this is the gift that your deeds deserve, and now what are you going to do about it? So don't let the complaining about the bad gift be a reinforcement for the next bad gift to be even worse. When a bad gift comes down the pipeline, like uh, many of the presidents that we've had in the United States, in my opinion, that's a moment to self reflect and figure out how not to let that happen again. And we haven't been able to do that yet. It's just gotten worse after each president has gotten worse and worse and worse, right down to um, Donald Trump. And so I guess the next president is just going to be um, a cracked out giant rattlesnake, uh, some sort of hybrid thing that's sleeked out of Chernobyl and swam across the Atlantic and uh, rolled up on the shore. I mean, um, it's getting mythological out there, folks, and I hope that people snap out of it. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be something from the periphery that forces the human experiment to change. Civilization has never changed on the scale that it needs to change, and so there has to be, for it to change, it would have to be something much larger, something beyond its control that it can't make excuses for, uh, or there is not going to be any change, and change is not part of the, at least not on that scale, like heaven on earth or something. I think that's a I think that's sort of a pipe dream anyway. This whole idea of no problems anymore. Um, I think we can be a lot better at maintaining one another, maintenance of problems, and much better at handling shadows and demonic uh, situations that are down here, um, much more civil and uh, intelligent about things and have a much higher quality of life for everyone who, uh, in being a human being, inherits all the baggage that comes with that. And I don't believe in a free a free trip or free wisdom. So it's a case by case situation, and redemption is possible. I feel, on certain levels, but as far as a totally redeemed world that is heaven on earth, I think that's simply a pipe dream. Um, that this is it's a schoolhouse down here. It's always been a schoolhouse, at least for humans, and and different lessons, different graduation decorations, but ultimately, um, life is powered by death's timepiece. Think about that. There's a timepiece in your chest that belongs to death, keeping you alive. So we're a paradox. You might even say we're a paradox house. Good night, and thank you for your support.